Welcome back. We're live on Channel 5 with Zarah and Albia. We've been through the whole MP thing. You don't have to worry about that. We won't return to it. I don't think. Later, should we ban phones in all schools? Or is that dangerous, as some parents are claiming? Because they won't be able to see where their kids are on the old live map. First, though, broadcaster Huw Edwards avoided jail yesterday. Should he have gone to jail? 020-7862-2222 is the number. Do give us a call. He admitted having images of child sex abuse on his phone and was given a 6-month sentence, suspended for 2 years. And that means that he avoids prison unless he reoffends during this time. He'll also be on the sex offenders register for 7 years. And there's concern. So just come over here, if you can, to look at the headlines first of all. So there's obviously a lot of Huw Edwards, the police mugshot and so on. A lot of details of how these pictures were received. He was clearly enthusiastic about getting them. He sent the perpetrator, the sender of the pictures, Huw sent gifts to. He called a child sexual picture amazing. So he's absolutely busted here. And one thing that comes out of all the papers is this word lenient. Was the judge too lenient with Huw Edwards? Spool it back for just a second and let's just pick up on that headline, I think, in the Express that I saw here. Yeah, stop there. So too big to jail. Why was Huw Edwards spared a prison term? Who are these people? The answer is they were jailed. Nothing to do with the Huw Edwards case. These were the Just Stop Oil activists who planned to block the M25. I'll mention this guy in particular. This is Roger Hallam. What did he get? 5-year sentence. 5 years. What did he do? Went on a Zoom call to try to recruit people to stop the M25. Maybe you say 5 years is just right, but it seems a lot compared to Edwards, who walked free yesterday. We could mention as well the rioters. We've seen, 1,000 people arrested and charged over that outbreak of rioting in the summer. I'll just mention this one about 3-4 weeks ago. 2 men jailed for 4 years for using Facebook to incite riots. Another given 18 months for having a stolen TV in his car. And a criminal bar association chair says, that's too long, that's too harsh. We might, as a sub-paragraph, point you to this woman, Stacey Vint. There she is. What did she do? She wheeled a wheelie bin with a fire in it at the police, promptly fell flat on her face. 20 months in jail for Vint. Now, this is John Darwin. He's buying a flat in Lima, Peru. He makes the mistake of saying to the estate agent, sure, you can take a photo of me and put it on your website. Turns out that he's gone missing in an insurance fraud, got 6 years for it, known as Canoe Man, because he broke up his canoe and dropped it in the sea. 6 years for that, and swerving a sentence for Huw Edwards. I don't know, Albia. It seems unequal.
I always think these stories are particularly difficult. And look, I think what Huw Edwards did was absolutely abhorrent. And I think reading some of these details are just terrible. Edwards is describing some of the pictures as amazing, whilst also saying don't send anything. He paid £1,500 to a paedophile called Alex Williams, who sent him 41 illegal images over a period of 11 years. This was something which happened for a very long time. And the punishment, lots of people think it's not harsh enough. I actually think the police and the judiciary have a very difficult job in a world where everyone seems to be complaining about this two-tier justice. And these sorts of decisions are made on a case-by-case basis. Now, do the judiciary always get things right? No, they don't. Maybe they haven't got it right this time. But I do get concerned at all of these attacks more recently against the criminal justice system, which by and large does actually deliver for this country.
It's just, Zarah, when you look at those examples I've given, the riots, the environmental protests, and even John Darwin, the canoe man, they seem to have been punished much more harshly.
I was shocked to see that Huw Edwards didn't receive a jail sentence. And I think when you compare it especially to the climate activists who were jailed for planning a protest on Zoom. It didn't actually happen. This was what they were organising. And I think there are further questions about the way the BBC has dealt with this from the initial complaint and actually the role of the investigation itself. So So they actually spoke to staff, junior staff. They had an inquiry. Those junior staff haven't even heard back about their complaints about Huw Edwards. Why do they carry on paying Huw Edwards after his arrest when he was suspended? And the buck stops with Tim Davie, whose position, I think, is untenable. The BBC should have learnt from scandals and individuals like Jimmy Savile, Stuart Hall, and here we are in 2024 when another lead talent from the BBC has been convicted.
But should he be in jail, is the question.
I think he should be, and I think we have to look at sentencing guidelines, because clearly this does not, this isn't okay and shouldn't have happened.
Let's talk to lawyer Nick Freeman now about this, because Nick, you're very familiar with the way this works. The first thing to say is that it seems as if the sentence for Huw is in line with other sentences for other people who've done similar things. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's important to remember in this case that the distributor only got a suspended sentence, and the starting point for a distributor for the more serious type of pictures is 3 years. In Huw Edwards' case, he was charged just with possession, and 7 of the pictures were of the most serious type. And the starting point for him is 12 months. And the range is 26 months custody to 3 years. Now, what's interesting is, so we're looking at custody and there's no reason to suspend it. But then if you look carefully at the sentencing guidelines, it does say if there is a realistic prospect of rehabilitation, then we don't need to send someone to custody either for a short period or even for a moderate period. They can be dealt with a sexual offenders order and requiring them to do work for the community, not even a suspended sentence. So if you fit certain criteria, and bearing in mind most of the people who are convicted of these type of offences are middle-aged males who haven't got previous convictions, who are obviously very sorry. They're caught red-handed, they plead guilty, they're very happy to undertake any form of rehabilitation. They're not going to go to prison because they tick those boxes. And the problem we've got here is we've got 7 to 9 year old boys who are providing a market, and we need to kill the market. So the sentencing guidelines need to be looked at so that in fact there is a serious deterrent. Because without the deterrent, this market's going to continue to flourish, and that's exactly what's happening at the moment.
One of the things that I couldn't quite work out, Nick, was that in amongst the mitigations is this thing of he's lived a previously upstanding life and he doesn't have any criminal convictions and he's got a great career and people look up to him and so on. Now, all of that seems to me aggravating. It's not a mitigation. It's like when a teacher is accused of grooming a child, it's far more serious than when it's an ordinary punter who does it.
Well, I agree with you, Jeremy, because there's a huge breach of trust here. And of course, Huw Edwards was in a position, he was the anchorman of the BBC, and he's betrayed the trust of the BBC, the public. Everyone looked up to him, they admired him, and they had a reasonable expectation that he was going to be a man who would uphold integrity and values. And they've been bitterly betrayed. And breach of trust is, in fact, an aggravating feature that doesn't appear to have aggravated this particular case. The judge has looked carefully at the sentencing guidelines. He's pleaded guilty at an early stage, so he should get a third discount. He appears to have had more than that. So in my view, the judge has got it right, but the sentencing guidelines are wrong. And I think we as a society need to work out, do we want to stamp out this vile trade? And if we do, we need to have serious deterrent sentences. And as long as you say, look, I'm sorry, I want to rehabilitate, this vile trade is going to continue to grow in the way that it is at the moment. We're never going to stamp it out.
Thank you.
And we'll make it, and that's my view.
Thank you very much, Nick Freeman, for joining us, as always. Thank you. Beverly in London, do you think he should have gone to jail?
Oh, yes, he should have gone to jail because, I mean, those children, every photo of a child being abused has that child on the other end suffering from everything. And Huw Edwards, I mean, the thing is, I'm annoyed about the judge. And I know your lawyer said that, well, that's the sentencing and everything. And I do agree with him that the guidelines need to change. But Huw Edwards should have gone to prison.
I wonder whether the way, because I think there's such public interest in this, and that's part of the aggravation, which makes it worse than it would be if it was an anonymous randomer, whether the judge should have said, I'm suspending all but 1 month of your sentence, and you will spend a month in jail. And then you sort of, maybe that squares it, Albie, I don't know.
Look, I think the judge is going to be much more well qualified, however emotional we feel about the topic, to decide on what sentence Huw Edwards should have got. I agree that the sentencing guidelines should change, because I actually read that something like just 20% of people that commit this sort of offence actually end up in prison. This is away from Huw Edwards, away from the star power of this story. Just if you were an ordinary person that did this, you probably wouldn't go to prison, which would suggest there's something wrong with the sentencing guidelines. But judges are the best place to rule on sentences within the guidelines that we have, not pundits.
I don't think this is a criticism of the judge. Nobody's saying the judge failed to follow the guidelines. Maybe he could have smelt the wind a bit more and said this is a hugely publicly important case and therefore I'm going to throw the book at you. But that's not how they're supposed to operate. We'll talk a bit more after the break about this, of whether Huw Edwards should have been jailed, because there's so much public attention on this case. It would have sent a signal out to other people thinking of doing the same thing. Let's take more calls on this shocking story about Huw Edwards, who's not gone to prison. 0207 862 2222. He got a suspended sentence after he admitted to making indecent images of children. Interestingly, the police didn't get his phone. He'd obviously thrown it in the Thames or something. And got a friend who knows him quite well. I said, this is before all this happened. I said, I think my number for Huw's out of date. Can't reach him on it. And the friend said, oh, yeah, since the number you got, he's had 4 other numbers. And I now realise because I'm guessing we haven't changed our number for years.
Too long.
Too long, right? For life. He's changed his phone number 4 times in 7 years. Something odd about that. And now we know why. He was throwing his phones in the river. Bill on the Isle of Wight, what do you think?
Good morning, Jeremy.
Hi.
Good morning, panel. Well, first and foremost, yes, he should have gone to jail without a shadow of doubt in my mind. I'm a survivor of historical rape, and every time someone gets away with it, it's just like a stab in the back for all survivors. I think there also should be a minimum prison sentence, not a maximum. And anyone that commits such heinous crimes should have a minimum of 10 years in jail.
Bill, listen, I'm really sorry to hear about your situation. I can understand why you feel so strongly about it. And I've got almost nothing to say by way of argument. I wonder, though, whether these sentences are put together with a maybe old-fashioned view that stuff that happens online, digitally, with photos is not as serious as stuff that happens directly between an adult and a child, like the kind of thing you were a victim of.
I can't agree with you there, because there's still a victim. The photos, there's still that victim. The person that took the photos is still the perpetrator. And I heard the person that sent Huw Edwards these pictures also only got a suspended sentence. Yeah, so I'm just finding it quite ludicrous.
Yeah, no, thank you, Bill. Bless you, and thank you for calling. And that is, so the paedophile called Alex Williams, who sent him hundreds of photos and who then began to send him illegal pictures, was only given a suspended sentence as well. Now, that seems odd to me. Verity in Worcestershire. Sorry, Anita in Berkshire. Let's go to you next. Hi, Anita.
Hi. How are you?
What do you? I'm well, thanks. It's such an awful, horrible story, isn't it?
Oh, it's horrific. Absolutely horrific. I'm the mother of a gorgeous 16-year-old who was sexually abused by a family member. He's now suffering with PTSD. I am thoroughly, thoroughly disgusted with the justice system. This has just made a complete and utter mockery of the justice system, in my opinion. This man should be in jail. He's nothing more than an absolute monster, in my opinion. He should, in my opinion, he should have received a jail sentence. I agree with Bill of 10 years at the very, very least.
Listen, as I say, I'm not going to argue with you. Zarah, what do you think?
I think the fact that a paedophile hasn't gone to jail is concerning. And I think it then, unfortunately, feeds into conspiracy theories around two-tier policing, which aren't based in truth. But when people see stories like this and they hear the descriptions of the images that Huw Edwards received, that a trust in the criminal justice system is at risk there. And I think sentencing guidelines have to be addressed after this.
Anita, without going into too much detail, what happened in your family? Was the perpetrator punished?
No.
No.
Not at all. No, because there was found to be insufficient evidence against him. My son is autistic, and it was just deemed that there wasn't enough physical evidence around to be able to form enough for a conviction.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Anita, very much. Verity in Worcestershire, hi.
Hi, good morning to you, Jeremy, and to the panel. I'm disgusted with what's happened with Huw Edwards. He should have at least served a minimal jail sentence.
Yeah, even just 6 months would have sent a signal, I think, wouldn't it?
Well, it's basically sending a signal out to people of his demeanour to say, you know, you can get away with stuff. It seems that people who work for the BBC seem to have a cloak of innocence about them. It's disgraceful, in my opinion, and that is my opinion. But
yeah, I wonder whether the judge, is it possible the judge says, right, the punishment for this man is greater because he's fallen so far, because he will, I mean, he's famous. I don't think he can even travel now. He probably can't. If he gets on a train, what's going to happen? The word's going to go up and down the train as Huw Edwards in Carriage B. You know, and because he's fame becoming notoriety, becoming hatred is a terrible thing. And that's what he faces now for the rest of his life, Verity. And that is a jail of a kind, isn't it?
Oh, Jeremy, please. The man can afford a private chauffeur to go anywhere he can. Look at the money he's earned from the BBC over the years. I mean, the only thing I take sympathy in is the fact that his wife has left him and his children will probably never want to have anything to do with him.
Yeah,
but
I don't know the details,
socially and morally, this man should have served a prison term to show that this behaviour is socially unacceptable.
His demeanour, firstly with the sunglasses the first time he was in court, and secondly when he left court yesterday, somebody said they saw a smile. I don't know. He does look as if he doesn't care as much about it as he should. Too much of a reading on that? Let's have a look at it. So, I don't know. I mean, in the end, maybe he's so deep in it he can't even see straight. I don't know. But so, yeah. I mean, give someone a nod, head up.
He certainly looks very different this time than I think last time when he went in. I think he was wearing a pair of Ray-Bans. There was almost something a bit cinematic about it all. It all felt a bit ridiculous. We're seeing these images.
He was going in to plead guilty as well, so he wasn't fighting a case even.
No, the whole thing is just terrible. But it's not just Huw Edwards, just to respond to Verity, who is getting what people think is a lenient case.
Let's go to Sarah in Surrey just before our break. Hi, Sarah.
Good morning.
Well, every single person so far has said he should have been jailed.
Firstly, I'd like to stick to the questioning point, should he be in jail? My point is, with the severity of the images that he had, both still and video, I don't think it should ever have gone to trial in a magistrate's court. It should have gone to a Crown Court.
Well, it's not going to be a trial because he's pleading guilty. So you just straight through to sentencing. Yeah.
Okay, sentencing, yeah. That's another thing. I agree with
We've got to go to our break, Sarah. I tell you what, I don't want to cut you off. Stay there. We'll take a minute of your call just after the break, so we hear your second point. Thank you. Sarah, I promise you did a brilliant thing. You said, I've got 2 points. You made one, and then we had to take our break. So please make the other for me, Sarah.
Okay, my second thing is, what optic does this give out? Because if you plead guilty, Are you guilty because you're remorseful? Are you guilty because you have been found out? And this is where your lawyer comes in, that these sentences should be looked at, because what it does, what's happening is it's fueling into, well, okay, if I plead guilty, I'm going to get a lesser sentence, and it fuels into a trade, a big business of child abuse.
Yeah. Okay.
And this needs to be addressed.
Okay, Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you.